We welcome you inside the gymnasium at Mount Vernon High School. Happy New Year to you. And on this January 3rd, two teams that look drastically different, yet are better than expected from a year ago, meet tonight. It is the Westfield Shamrocks at 6-1 against the Mount Vernon Marauders at 7-3. My name is Greg Rakestraw, joined by Jim Leisure. Thanks for joining us on 9 Star and the ISC Sports Network. Jim, it's our second chance together to see this Westfield team. We saw them get an early season victory against Pendleton Heights, and since that time, they have rattled off 4 more victories, just 1 loss to Zionsville so far this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see just how much better they've gotten. First game of the season, a little rusty, wasn't real sharp. They did get the 10-point win, but I'm really looking forward to see how much better they've gotten.
Alex Romack is one of their 2 returning kind of rotational pieces from last year, and by far the most experienced. He is playing like it. 15 points, 10 rebounds a game. Big fella's averaging 3 assists as well. He was a great complimentary piece to departed Division I players like Braden Smith and Cam Hafner. He's taken a star turn this year.
Yeah, Coach Sumner has got to be really, really pleased with him because, like you said, he has really grown into his role as the new leader and is also bringing some of these young kids along with him.
What Ben Rhodes and Mount Vernon has done is downright remarkable. They literally returned 3 players that saw varsity action a season ago, and 2 of those played in 1 game. Eli Breidenthal is the only returning rotational piece from last year's sectional championship team. So which star freshman going to feature? we did eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We picked Julian Smith because he and Luke Erdl are leading the team in scoring. Julian, 13 points, 4 rebounds a game. Both of those freshmen, Jim, are shooting 40% from three-point range.
Yeah, it really puts a lot of pressure on any defensive coach to say, like you said, who do we stop? Who do we focus on? Obviously, you got to focus on everybody.
Adam Hackett will jump at center for Mount Vernon. Romack has the honors for Westfield. We'll fill you in on starters as we go. Other name of note for Westfield is Trey Buchanan, their second leading scorer, 13.5 points a game. He has missed the last 2 games with an ankle sprain. He is playing tonight for the first time since the Noblesville game. And unfortunately for Westfield, Charles Farrell stepped on the baseline, tracking that one down, which means that Mount Vernon will have the opening possession of this game.
Yeah, you could see Farrell. He was kind of not sure whether he wanted to grab that ball or not. Wasn't sure where his foot was. Grabbed the basketball, referee right on top of it, blew it dead.
So Mount Vernon a year ago lost just 3 times. Westfield beat them on this corresponding date last year. Mount Vernon then rattled off 16 consecutive victories before losing to Ben Davis in the morning game of the Southport Regional. These 2 teams not only in separate sectionals, they are in opposite halves of the bracket. Westfield in sectional 8 goes north. Mount Vernon in sectional 9 goes south in terms of the 4A state tournament. This is Luke Erdl. Now he will pitch it to a teammate for a line drive 3. And that is that one member of this team with experience in Eli Breidenthal, the soon-to-be baseball player at Xavier. 10 points and 6 rebounds a game, and hits the game's opening bucket, a 3. And a foul going to be called against Adam Hackett. For Hackett, 8 points and 5 rebounds a game. Hackett himself a 38% three-point shooter. Picks up foul number 1.
Breidenthal comes into the ballgame shooting 24% from behind the arc, so maybe not his best shot, but a good one.
Buchanan catch and shoot that just grazes the rim. And Breidenthal will lead the break, but Farrell read that one coming. Farrell races back. Breidenthal sticks it to the backboard. Mount Vernon as a team, 60 points a game, allowing 52. Westfield a little more judicious in terms of their pace, 50 points a contest, but allowing just 38.
Yeah, pace will be huge here to see which way it goes.
Hackett, 3 in the corner, does not go, and Armani Middlebrooks will grab the rebound for Westfield. 6'3" junior, 4.5 points and 3.5 boards a contest. Romack. Poked away by Erdl for a moment, just slowed him down. Good close out on that 3-point attempt by Sam Bishop, who is Westfield's 3rd leading scorer. Big drop-off after you get through Romack as Farrell takes a star turn and gets that one to go. Farrell averaging 4.5 points a contest to finish the thought. Romack and Buchanan both in double figures. No other player more than 5 for Shane Sumter's team.
Yeah, really nice job there, just kind of finishing at the rim. We talked about you're going to see the spin move. And just expect some contact. Got just enough, just that reach the officials called.
Farrell does not get to the line very often. That was just his 13th free throw attempt of the season. That was his 10th make. And so an old school three-point play matches the more modern day version. And we're tied at 3, nearly 2 minutes in. Westfield in a man-to-man. Of course, Westfield, the first time you can say this in program history, defending sectional champions. Breaking a streak of over a century of not winning a boys sectional. On the turn, the bucket is good for Armani Wells. And Jim, I'm not sure I've seen this, especially a team that is this successful as Mount Vernon, as Romack at the other end leaves it short. But Mount Vernon is starting 3 freshmen tonight.
Well, you always hear the phrase going young, but, it's one thing if you go young, but you go really talented. And they're going to be all right, I think, with these 3 kids. And, again, heaven only knows how good they can be in 3 more years.
And they're not exactly – you have to put them in the conversation in sectional 9 again. Bridenthal's shot is good. He's got a pair of buckets. 7-3 start to this contest for the Marauders.
Yeah, sectional 9's loaded. New Palestine, a very good Greenfield Central team. Greenfield lost to New Pal, but it was tied at the end of 3, and their second leading scorer, Braylon Mullen, spent the majority of the game on the bench with foul trouble. So anybody can do that. I think Muncie Central 7-1 or 8-1.
Don't forget Anderson.
Through.
Indians are awfully good this year. Extra possession, but then Buchanan simply lost it. Great diving effort. And at the other end, Ertl couldn't finish. Smith, who got the steal on the crash, puts it up and in. That turnover by Westfield is rare. They average 10 a game. Mount Vernon equally adept at hanging on to the basketball. They've committed 9.5 turnovers on the season.
Which is a good number. I mean, you're going to get turnovers anytime you play basketball. You're aggressive. But if you can hang around that 8, 7, 8, 9 number, you're going to be successful.
Again, Smith showing pretty good proclivity to kind of shoot that gap from a passing standpoint. For Westfield, first time they are playing since December 21st. Bishop off the window. Couldn't finish. On the other hand, Mount Vernon played 5 days ago. In fact, they played a pair of games, and a foul, I believe, going to be called on the floor before a shot attempt. LaSalle Hatcher with the whistle of our outstanding 3-person crew. Hackett will have a seat. Take a look at the foul. Coming back on our baseline camera, Armani Middlebrooks whistled for it.
Pretty good call there. He just reached over the shoulder, made enough contact.
Ball's got to get in. It didn't get it in time. Chris Shields saying, nope. If there's a person that works more games than me, his name is Chris Shields. He did 2 games last Wednesday at 2 different sites, and I was on the call of both of them on the IHSAA Sports Network. Chris, one of the hardest working and simply put best officials. One of the good people in high school sports here in Central Indiana.
Well, the two of you ought to get together and save some gas money and just ride together.
I'm not sure we like each other that much would be the problem. That doesn't apply to you and me, by the way.
Oh, well, you and I have ridden we went to, Hobart a couple years ago. Fantastic day of football as that was.
Buchanan for 3, got that one. Trey Buchanan, a 40% three-point shooter. His father, Chad, the general manager of the Indiana Pacers. Buchanan knocks it down. And good to see him back on the court, having missed the last 2 games. Westfield won both of those, albeit against somewhat smaller competition. Wells turns in midair. Good job to swing it baseline by Breidenthal, but Armani Wells got a little excited on the drive and turns over for a second time through the Marauders.
Greg, you talk about injuries, and again, as a coach, that's always those difficult questions. You want to make sure that he is, in fact, healthy. This is a big game. You want to win it, I get it, but you certainly don't want to risk further injury. They obviously feel like he's ready to go.
Big week for Westfield. They got Carmel coming up on Saturday. Again, Smith picks the pocket up Buchanan. Wave off the shot. Foul going to be called against Buchanan, and love the display of sportsmanship by Buchanan. Immediately offers his hand to Smith to help him get up. Turnover by Westfield, and foul on Buchanan, his first. Fitzgerald will come back in. Brady, a 6'4 junior. 3 points and a rebound and a half a game. Both these teams will play 7, maybe 8 in today's game. Farrell with the deflection.
Yeah, both teams, like you said, play 7 or 8 guys, and size-wise very similar as well. Nobody has tremendous height. Both teams have a couple kids 6'5", 6'6". Everybody else is about 6 foot tall.
Which makes Westfield's season opening victory against Kokomo all that more impressive because of Flory Badunga and the exploits that he is crafting in his second season of playing Indiana high school basketball. Baseline three for Ertl does not go. Rebound corralled by Farrell. 2v1, Farrell on the take off the window, scored, and Charles Farrell is going to up his scoring average regardless of what happens the rest of the way. He averages 4.5. He's got 5. Now Ertl, and just like in football, looking to distribute. On the drive, and a bobble and a travel. That is Tanner Teschendorf. First time we have called his name, a 6'1 sophomore. 6 points and 3 boards. And here is Seth Laravia. First, let's take a look at the extra step, no doubt about it. That was both a step through and a Euro step at the same time.
Well, and Coach Rhodes was asking about he didn't have control of it. But you know what? I like that call.
Right.
To me, if you move the basketball from point A to point B without dribbling it, that's a walk. Now, I've seen a lot of officials do that. Well, he didn't have control of it. Well, I mean, you could basically jug it all the way down the floor then if that's the case. I mean, at some point, you have to call the travel.
Will Harvey is in there. A little trap here by Mount Vernon. Here's Laravia, dials it up from 22. That does not go in. Ertl with the rebound. You hear that last name, Laravia? Yes. His older brother is Jake, that played at Lawrence Central, that now plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. Speaking of younger brothers, Luke's older brother Michael currently plays in Finland. Luke's the star of the future here in Mount Vernon and knocks down his first bucket.
Yeah, he does not play like a freshman. Doesn't look like a freshman. He's a bigger kid, stronger-looking kid.
Starting quarterback as a freshman. One of a handful of those around Central Indiana this year. On the back cut, Farrell couldn't get there in time, and both teams now have given it away 3 times in the first 6 minutes.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic for both ball clubs. I would imagine they're going to settle that down and, again, work back into their 9 to 10 turnover average. Otherwise, both of them are on a pace here to set some sloppy basketball records.
Double screen for Ertl out top. Ertl turns down the layup. Hackett proves that to be a wise decision as the senior knocks it home. He's a 38% three-point shooter. And Jim, already 3 different Marauders have connected from distance. And you blink your eyes, it's a 7-point Mount Vernon lead, and Laravia going to be called for steps.
And I think he did. I mean,
he did. Absolutely,
yeah,
he did.
I mean, he just caught the basketball, and he just kind of took a couple little bobbles. And
it's a little pitter-patter before he put on the floor. Is the right call. Wrench's older brother Jake, drafted by the Grizzlies after 1 year at Wake Forest. Before that, a couple of seasons at Indiana State University. Ertl, deep 3, no. Teschendorf couldn't hang on to it from Mount Vernon. Laravia has it and then is fouled. Teschendorf whistled on the foul, his first, and team foul number 2.
Interesting to see what Westfield does with 30 seconds to go in the quarter. I always feel like when you're down 7 points, go ahead and try to get a bucket. I mean, why just salt away 30 seconds?
They will have possession to start quarter number 2. So far, just 3 field goals for the Shamrocks here in the opening quarter. And both these teams sectional champions last year. Both these teams saw their seasons end in the regional round. Clock is on your screen. Buchanan in time and gets the bounce. Trey Buchanan's got 5. Charles Farrell's got 5. But Mount Vernon's lead is 5. We're going to take this quick timeout, come back and tell you about donuts. 15-10, Mount Vernon leads it here on 9 Star and the ISC Sports Network.
We are really heavily involved in the community, so there are multiple different volunteer opportunities that we can go and do.
Volunteer time to share their time and talents with organizations that need not only monetary assistance, but just people's time to help those organizations grow and thrive.
9 Star is a different kind of company, and the difference is you.
Tonight's game on ISC and 9 Star, presented by our friends at Quack Daddy Donuts in Westfield. I'm going to have Jim frothing at the mouth by the end of this read. Fresh vanilla cake donuts. They've got 7 icings, 17 different toppings. They also have catering and large orders available, and you can even host birthday parties and events in the shop. Find out more by logging on to quackdaddydonuts.com or follow them on social at QDD Westfield.
You know what time they close? If I leave now, can I get there?
I know the owner. I will give you his home telephone number.
Thank you. Just run by the house. I'm sure his wife won't mind.
Go first thing in the morning. Hello, how are
doing?
you? Hiding behind the monitor, Greg Rakestraw, Jim Leisure with you here on 9 Star.
I'm sure you can handle this, right? If I were to run over and get us a dozen.
Wouldn't be the first time, no. Many thanks to John Painter and his tremendous staff. Flip the arrow. Not exactly sure. I get it. Okay, let's go back to the tip-off. Westfield had possession. Farrell stepped on the baseline. So the arrow was pointing towards Westfield, but properly it is now shifted over to being Mount Vernon basketball.
Good catch by the officials.
We got a great crew tonight. Good friend of mine saw us here. This must be the game of the night locally. If you guys here, I said, no, look at the officials. It's the game of the night because that crew is here. Not exactly a full slate this evening, but certainly this is one of the more marquee games in the state tonight.
Yeah, more and more schools like to play these Tuesday games.
3 by Buchanan, no. And, of course, as Teschendorf gets the rebound then is fouled, you've got this odd mix right now of schools that are in session and schools that don't go back until next Monday. So for a Tuesday night crowd, it's a pretty good crowd we have in this rather small facility here at Mount Vernon.
You see the foul there, just reaching over the arm and getting a whole bunch of skin.
So Harvey with the foul, his first, and team foul number 3.
Yeah, I started to say a lot of coaches like these Tuesday games because this is the way you got to play in a sectional. You're going to have a Tuesday game, a Wednesday game, and hopefully if you win, a Friday and a Saturday.
Good take off the window and score it. That's Brady Fitzgerald. And he got to play in one varsity game last year for the Marauders.
Mount Vernon getting 6 different players involved in scoring. Again, makes it hard to defend. They got 4 guys that average right either at 10 or, 12 and a half, 13 and a half, that kind of thing.
7-point lead for Mount Vernon matches their largest. Romack lost it, able to track it down. Of note, Romack is yet to score. Buchanan, good cut to the basket. Better find by Charles Farrell. Both teams moving well without the ball. Leads to a Breidenthal look from 3. And you name the sport, he plays it well. He was the Swiss Army knife for Mount Vernon on offense, on football. Play a little wide receiver, play a little quarterback at times. His future is in baseball.
Yeah, I've always said that I'm a better coach when I have better players, and guys like Eli Breidenthal make all 3 coaches better coaches.
Of course, he was a part of their football state championship at the 4A level last fall in 2021. Romack inside out. Again, ball movement crisp. Good look by Harvey for 3. That does not go. But Romack, that's what he does. Again, he averages a double-double at 15 and 10. And Alex Romack will shoot 2. Romack on the season, a 68% free throw shooter. Last year, this Westfield team, as you see his handiwork on the low block, the foul on Fitzgerald, finally overcame the challenge of Carmel in that sectional final. It also ended a streak for Carmel as they had won 7 consecutive boys sectionals. That at the time was the longest streak in the state in boys basketball.
A great example of a program. One of the things we talked about in coaching all the time is you want to build a program so that even when you're down a little bit talent-wise, you can still compete for a sectional championship.
Max McComb is in for Westfield for a first time. Romack goes 1 of 2. The ball finds Lucas Ertl on the high right side. Smith fires one up. No. Wells had it, but McComb wraps his arms around it.
Good spacing by Westfield.
Better cut by Buchanan. And even though Buchanan is a fantastic three-point shooter, a couple of good basket cuts. It's almost like he grew up around the game or something along those lines.
You think he had keys to the gym?
Some pretty impressive gyms, yes. Like the one downtown between Pennsylvania and Delaware streets. Back to a 5-point game.
Again, both teams spacing it well.
Pull up by Ertl from the elbow. Does not go. And Farrell had it for a moment, then couldn't hang on to it. It'll remain Mount Vernon basketball. You reference Greenfield Central and probably their best team in maybe even say 20 years with that group. Tate Hall Senior, they had a really good team.
Coach Meredith has really done a good job.
That Dylan Moles of that group going to head to play at Marion. Breidenthal gets the 3, his 3rd make of the game, and he's got a chance for a 4-point play on the foul.
Very, very impressive. Again, to be able to have the focus to feel the contact, shoot right through it, finish. You're going to see the replay here. Nice pass. Must have felt they got him on the wrist and probably hurt it, probably from down there.
I think it was the legs. They kind of bumped him on the, didn't have a chance to land properly.
Okay, because it didn't look like there was much at the top.
I think it was almost an undercut.
Yeah.
Didn't let him land. So a 4-point trip by Breidenthal when Eli's got a dozen. He's got a half of Mount Vernon's points. The Marauders now extend their largest lead to 9. Middlebrooks, again the basket cut. That time good look that would not go, but Romack patrols the boards, put back and score. Again, I don't know what Alex's college plans are in terms of playing basketball. I think he's a kid that's a D3 NAI kid, and if he goes the right program, Jim, he could be a star at that level.
Yeah, he's listed as 6'6", so, a lot of times that's not big enough to play inside in the big-time Division I level, but you're right. I think at that Division III level, he could probably be a productive player.
Of course, we have our fair amount of NAI basketball in the ISC Sports Network. We'll have a lot of Marion games coming up in the Crossroads League. Starting tomorrow night with the Marion women against Grace. Ertl misses, and Ertl just 1 field goal so far.
Well, I tell you what, though, he saw that opportunity. He took it. His body almost bent in half.
Nice find in the corner. That 3 does not go. Ertl will track it down. Trailer 3 by Breidenthal again. Give him 15 points. Again, folks, not even his best sport. This might be his 3rd best sport, to be honest with you. He's pretty good at this one, too.
Coach Sumter showing a little frustration there. Saying, come on, guys. Can anybody get close to him? I mean, he's just getting wide open looks.
He is the one returning piece as a deep 3 by Buchanan is good. And he's been holding that one back about 2 or 3 weeks with that ankle injury.
Yeah. Trey saying, Coach, I can't guard him, but I can hit a 3 and we can match him up as Coach Rhodes takes a timeout.
Yeah, Ben Rhodes will ask for a timeout. First timeout called by either side. It is a 30-second timeout. Get a good look at Shane Sumter inside of the Westfield huddle. He was the girls' head coach at Westfield before he was the boys' head coach. And we referenced their sectional history up until last year. Even as now one of the top 32 enrollments in the state, in Hamilton County, they were always the little guy, behind Carmel. And now from an enrollment standpoint, nobody's going to catch Carmel, but they're catching it with everybody else. Led by Mr. Basketball, Braden Smith. Westfield had their first Mr. Basketball, first Indiana Boys All-Star, and first sectional championship all in the same year.
And having said all that, and I totally understand and agree with you, that Carmel animal is a big animal to get over. But still, you would think some year, and because Carmel wasn't always huge, right? I mean, in 1940 or 1950.
You know who the big guy was back then? Sheridan in Hamilton County.
Wow. Because I think football when I hear Sheridan. I didn't even know they played basketball at Sheridan.
Until the 50s, they were the largest town in Hamilton County.
Holy cow.
And you thought I'd educate you on basketball tonight. And there you get a little history and geography all rolled into one.
How about that?
And good movement by each of these two teams. Connor Shank in there now for Mount Vernon, 6-foot senior. Couple of points of contest. You kind of now seeing the end of both rotations for these two teams. Breidenthal, pretty move. Romack there waiting on him. Wells, the put back and score it. Armani Wells gets his 2nd bucket. The freshman averages 5 points and 4 rebounds a game. Middlebrook, pretty. Middlebrooks, let me properly pluralize his last name. Armani, that's singular. 29-22. Westfield back within 7.
Armani's first bucket of the ball game.
He averages 5 points and about 4 boards a game. Well, the differences in terms of the ages and faces as Smith gets that bucket to go. You are surprised by these teams having won a combined 13 games coming in. In watching them play each other, you are not surprised that these two teams are combined 13-4.
I'll tell you, the spacing in this ball game from both ball clubs, this could be a clinic tape.
Buchanan, not that time. Middlebrooks, good fight for it. Keeps it away from Breidenthal and scores on him. Well, these are two exceedingly well-coached teams.
Yeah.
Back to a 7-point game. Good one on a Tuesday night, the first such evening of high school basketball in 2023. Buchanan, the freebie, scoop and score. He's got 14 again. He has already passed his average. And Westfield now back within 5. This is a good series between these two teams.
Yeah, I would imagine both coaches, because coaches work with athletic directors to create the schedule. Sometimes an AD will say, hey, who do you want off? Who do you want on? This is definitely one I think you keep.
Yeah.
It's non-conference, non-sectional. Great competition.
Smith from 22, no. But Wells, again, keeps the possession alive. And now you wonder if Mount Vernon's going to hold for one. That's what the junior in Fitzgerald is stating. And Ben Rhodes will go ahead and take his next 30-second timeout. So he'll burn through both of his 30s before we get to halftime.
I like it. You know what? Again, you got 24 seconds to play. Coach Rhodes wants to design one. You work on this stuff. And you see their huddle there. So go ahead. Let's design it. Let's see if we can get exactly what we want.
Ben Rhodes is in his 5th year as the head coach at Mount Vernon. Had a chance to talk to the previous successful head coach at Mount Vernon. Travis Doherty, of course, stayed on as a teacher here. He is an author as well, and his son's actually getting to dress for the varsity tonight. His son plays on the junior varsity team, but Ben has done a great job of building upon the foundation that Travis had laid for him here at this school. First couple of years that Ben was head coach, some younger teams had to learn along the way. Well, last year's group had 8 seniors, led by the Girard twins, now playing at IUPUI. And again, that Mount Vernon program now has won back-to-back 4A sectional championships.
Which is very impressive. And again, it takes coaches 2 or 3 years to get their system to the Rhodes way, which then becomes the Marauder way. Coach Rhodes came from Ben Davis, I believe, and as an assistant, and looks like Mount Vernon ended up with too many guys on the floor earlier in the JV game. That was whistled as a technical.
We'll expound on that Mark James relationship coming up in quarter number 3. We don't have time to do it justice here with 20 seconds left to go before we get to halftime. And Smith will pound the pavement here, about 7 or 8 seconds.
Wants to get moving about now, so if it don't go in, you might get a chance for a board and a putback.
On the drive, poked away by Farrell. Farrell got him on the wrist. Now the big question is on the way up or on the ground. It's on the ground, and immediately official says on the ground. Farrell the foul.
And see, and there's 1 second, so you got a chance for a catch and shoot. But had he got moving maybe 2 seconds earlier.
Erdl in time. Did not go, and the clock never started.
Yeah, they got to just,
that's
right. It. I mean.
And Shane Sumter's not going to give him the opportunity. Saying, that's enough. I'm going to the locker room.
There was 1 second. He caught it, dribbled it, turned around, didn't go in, and there's still a half a second. So come on. I mean, at this point, the officials just got to say,
yep, we're done. Yep. No need for further activity at this point. Exceedingly well-played first half by each of these two teams. Mount Vernon's been playing from in front the entire way. At halftime of this non-conference game, they lead Westfield 31-26. Stay tuned. Third quarter action not too far away as you're watching on 9 Star and the ISC Sports Network.
9 Star is very focused on customer and member care, focused on making sure that however we communicate with the member and customer is how they want to communicate.
Sometimes we're the one person that they speak to in a day, and you want that conversation to be happy and pleasant.
As a nonprofit co-op, we're focused on providing the best service we can for our members.
9 Star is a different kind of company, and the difference is you.
Welcome back for third quarter action. Again, tonight's game presented in part by our friends at Quack Daddy Donuts. Fresh vanilla cake donuts, 7 icings like strawberries, 17 toppings like cinnamon toast crunch. Catering and large orders are available. You can even have your birthday parties and events in the shop. It's on the west side of Westfield, quackdaddydonuts.com, QDDWestfield@gmail.com. to email Andy for more information. Alongside Jim Leisure, my name is Greg Rakestraw. Thank you so much for joining us on 9 Star and the ISC Sports Network. Mount Vernon leading Westfield by a score of 31-26. Jim, I thought the first half was an exceedingly well-played half of basketball. What say you?
No, I totally agree. You know, the only thing, there are a couple of anomalies here. You know, it looked like Westfield came out on pretty much their team that got their averages, except for Romack. Romack's the one guy who averages about 15, only has 3. Then you go up to Mount Vernon, you look at Ertl. Ertl's a guy that averages about 14. He has 3. The big fella for Mount Vernon, Breidenthal, is well over his average of 10 with 15.
Breidenthal was the story as he made 4 3-point field goals in half number 1. In fact, had a 4-point play in the first half as well. The freshmen certainly looked their part, in Ertl and Smith just didn't play as big of an offensive factor. Those two guys combined for 7. Armani Wells, the other freshman, if you will, they start 3 of them. He had 4. Adam Hackett with 3. Brady Fitzgerald with 2. Tanner Teschendorf and Connor Shank both played but did not score. For Westfield, 14 for Trey Buchanan, his first game since the Noblesville game due to an ankle sprain. 5 for Charles Farrell, 4 for Armani Middlebrooks, 3 for the aforementioned Alex Romack. Sam Bishop, Will Harvey, Seth Laravia, Max McComb all played but did not score. Before we get this one going, what changes, if any, do you expect from either team in half number 2?
Would not surprise me to see either team really come out with a different defensive set. Looked like it was just basically man-to-man defense. You might see some pressure, try to create some turnovers, especially if you're Westfield. You're down a couple possessions, so you might want to try to steal a couple.
For Westfield, this is the first of 3 they will play this week. They will face another Hoosier Heritage Conference team in terms of Yorktown on Friday. Or then again, they have the big showdown at Carmel on Saturday. Bishop, Buchanan, Middlebrooks, Romack, and Farrell. Starting 5 for Shane Sumter's team. A little high-low here. Middlebrooks will kick it out to Harvey. Buchanan trying to kick that to a teammate. Just no way to complete that pass. 5th Westfield turnover. 5 on the floor for Mount Vernon. Hackett, Wells, Smith, Ertl, Breidenthal. 2 seniors, 3 freshmen. But again, you're also 10 games in now, too, if you're Mount Vernon. That freshman label can be a bit deceiving when you've all played this many varsity minutes already. Ertl, again, he could not fit that into a passing lane. Romack runs the floor. Smith met him at the rim and rejected him. That's the 6-foot freshman blocking the 6'6 senior.
That is impressive. And, you know, both guards, Ertl and Buchanan, both of them left their feet before they really knew what they were going to do with the basketball. And then when they got up there, they realized, you know what? I don't have anywhere to go to this basketball. Got to be a little bit more under control.
Good basket cut. Left short by Wells. Romack, and again, Romack can get the rebound, lead the break. And then Romack, they touch it last. No, looks like Westfield will keep possession.
Yeah, I couldn't see who did, but it looked like there were 3 white shirts here. We're going to get a great shot right here as he comes down, tries to lay it. Oh, that's the other one. That's the block. That's impressive. But, yeah, it definitely went off a Mount Vernon player, just a matter of which one.
Buchanan, catch and shoot. High arcing 3 is good. He has got 17. In Buchanan's game, very reminiscent of Cam Hafner that played for this Westfield team last year. Now plays at Eastern Illinois University, a team that just beat Iowa a couple of weeks ago with Hafner in the lineup.
After Coach Rhodes, now you're going to have to find a way to guard him. You can't just let him keep shooting those threes. He's going to bury you if you do.
And at 2 points, this is as close as it has been in a while, Jim. Ertl trying to rectify that, and Farrell has something for him. Ertl thought there might have been some contact there, but not enough to draw the whistle.
Yeah, I think Ertl was trying to create it by basically slowing down. You see players a lot of times as they go, you see the, just kind of go straight up. And, I mean, if there was, it was lower body, but clearly a clean block from up top.
I think his objection might have been not as much to contact, but I think Mr. Farrell must have had something to say, because then there was a quick conversation by the official towards Charles and kind of a nod from Coach Rhodes on that sideline as well. Smith powers his way up, couldn't finish. Went on the basket so far for Mount Vernon. A 2 to tie, a 3 to take the lead. Here's the ladder. There's the lead. Sam Bishop sticks it from the corner. He's got 5, and the Rocks are in front at 32-31. And Erdl in a tough spot. Now the lead was as large as 9 at one point for the Rocks. Farrell will track it down. And Westfield at 6-1 on the season. Lone loss to a pretty good Zionsville team in overtime. Again, second verse, not the same as the first, but Middlebrooks had it. I think it was knocked away by Mount Vernon. It was.
You know, you talked earlier about how well coached both these teams are with their spacing and the ball movement, and that's all absolutely true. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of, Greg, is I'm seeing a lot of people with their bodies. The ball goes to the rim. We find somebody to put my body against.
Middlebrooks will shoot 2 free throws. Did a good job of getting into Hackett to create that contact. And take a look at the replay here.
Yeah, again, the slap down is going to get called every single time.
Middlebrooks does not get to the free throw line very often. He is 8 of 16 from the stripe on the season. 71% as Westfield as a team, and Middlebrooks misses that one wide left. It's been a limited foul and free throw game. To put this in perspective, you're about to witness the 6th free throw attempted the entire game. 5 of those belong to Westfield.
It looks like he's taking a little bit more time with this one. He kind of rushed the first one.
And gets the friendly bounce. So a 2-point lead. Westfield has outscored Mount Vernon 7-0 to start this third stanza. Teschendorf in there for Mount Vernon.
If this ends up being an empty possession for Mount Vernon, wouldn't surprise me to see Ben Rhodes call a timeout.
Well, it will not be one. Your point was well made, but Smith serves as the momentum changer. This Mount Vernon team's pretty good now. They're going to be awfully good for the next several years. Potential to have 3 4-year starters. Great entry pass. Romack pivots his way to a good look. Romack's second field goal. He's got 5.
Nice job knowing where you're at on the floor and just kind of being really soft with that little baby hook.
And Romack, 15 and 10, his average on a per game basis. Erdl, yep, led with the off arm offensive foul.
Yeah, good call. Now I don't know that there was as much contact there as the player looked like he'd been hit by a car. You're going to see it here. He pushed him.
Bishop sold it.
Yeah.
But you have that extended arm. That makes it a
sure.
very easy whistle for Lachelle Hatcher to call on that one. Turnover against Mount Vernon, by the way. Goes down as their 5th of the game. But a very limited turnover game as well. Buchanan 3. Yes, sir. Oh, is he a sight for sore eyes for Westfield fans. And from a 5-point deficit to a 5-point lead for the Shamrocks. A little past the midway point of quarter number 3.
Coach Ben Rhodes just hands on his knees, looked like he got punched in the gut.
Great find by Breidenthal. Erdl could not finish. Buchanan the rebound in traffic. They're going to get Breidenthal, I believe, for the reach-in foul.
Yeah, just ill-advised. I mean, you're going for the tie-up, but it's just going to get called a lot. He's kind of behind the player, trying to reach and get in between the elbow and the ball. Pretty easy call for the official.
Good student crowd, as you can see on hand, from Mount Vernon tonight. These are two teams with north of 20 wins a season ago. Basket cut by Farrell and scores it. Farrell's got 7. And you saw Mount Vernon burn a couple of 30s late in the half. If Ben Rhodes takes one here, which he will, now you're down to 2 with 2:50 left to go. But 7-point game, and here comes the timeout. So it is a full timeout. We'll keep it right here with 2:50 left to play in quarter number 3.
Oh, you see, again, great job of working through the contact. Difference why the foul wasn't called was because he didn't slap down. He went straight up, but nice job there by Farrell.
Here's our next game. Look at those handsome fellas calling the game. Coming up on Friday night. John Herrick and Jim Leisure. I know that guy.
Well, John is like a quasi-celebrity down there hanging out with Don Fisher. I'm just a local moron. that kind of wanders around bumping into things and somehow
I'll
it
agree
works
with the
out.
local part. I wouldn't go as far as saying the local moron. John Herrick, Jim Leisure. Again, we'll see these same Mount Vernon Marauders. In fact, our gear's going to stay here for the next 3 days because Dylan Mole is the young man you see on your screen going to play for Scott Hetty at Marion University. And, of course, Josh Mullins, a heck of a basketball player in his days at Greenfield Central. 20 years ago, he was helping lead IUPUI to the NCAA tournament. Now his kids are leading Greenfield Central back to prominence. Great Hancock and HHC rivalry comes your way Friday night on 9-Star and the ISC Sports
and
Network.
Sectional 9 rivalry as well. And we had the New Pal Greenfield game. Kurt Darling and I was at Greenfield. Great atmosphere. Again, the ball game was tied at the end of 3. New Pal, I think, ended up winning them by 8 or 9. They kind of flexed their experience muscle, for lack of Ian Stevens and Blaine Nunley, kind of took over that ball game in the fourth quarter. A little bit of youth with the Mullins kid being a sophomore. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Greenfield continues to respond because they've responded well to the loss.
Wells, good spin move, coming onto the basketball. Smith, no, but then they're going to say that he got hit on the elbow on the shot, given kind of how he short-armed that. And Chris Shields, again, that is more of an auditory call than it is you sensed it. Buchanan getting it whistled, and if we take a look there, and
it looked like he could have tied him up just a little bit there. So, again, good call. And like you said, it may have been what he heard more than what he saw.
kind of like a hit by pitch in baseball. You're going what your ears tell you as much as your eyes.
Yep.
Well, Smith, a 66% free throw shooter, makes the first and the second. And with that, Sub will check in, and Fitzgerald for Mount Vernon. It is a 14-point third quarter for Westfield with 2.5 minutes to play in it. And as a team, they're only averaging 50 points per game. And they last played on December the 21st, beating Muncie Burris with ease, 56-20. Great backdoor cut by Buchanan and beat two defenders of the ball. Buchanan now with 22.
Well, again, they kind of over-defended him a little bit with Julian Smith out there right up in his face.
Three in the corner. Does not go. That was Breidenthal, really his first look of the half. However, Smith hustles. He has a three, and he'll get it. That's 3 and D right there by Smith. Reverse the order. He's got 11 after getting the steal. That is a major swing for Mount Vernon.
I start to say Buchanan, though, cuts really nicely. If you're going to over-defend me out here on the arc, I'm going to break to the bucket. And that previous possession ended up in a nice layup.
Middlebrooks bobbles, recovers, and that is a timeout called by Shane Sumter, and a good one. That was a turnover-saving timeout called by the Westfield head coach. This will be a 30-second timeout.
Absolutely, Greg. I think you see a lot of coaches, they try to get that timeout. And, sometimes kind of surprisingly, as you're going to see this three-point, he gets the steal, steps back, realizes, you know what, if you're not going to guard me, I'm going to bury it, and he certainly can.
That normally does not go well, that move. After you get that steal, and, rarely do you have kind of the ability to kind of reset mentally and knock that shot down from the corner. Again, just shows you why that freshman is one of the most talented freshmen here in Central Indiana, one of 3 that are playing for Coach Rhodes in Mount Vernon.
He does shoot 40% from behind the arc, so clearly he's got a little bit of comfort from that distance. And this could be a nice defensive possession on the other end for Mount Vernon if they could come up with a stop here. And, of course, if you're Westfield, you'd love to get a bucket here and re-extend your lead.
Romack on the take. Great one. Alex Romack was 7.
So Romack slowly getting the feel of it again, getting back in it. Kid averages about 15.
Smith will pull from the elbow and score it. He is such a young kid. He doesn't know when the mid-range game was much more of an art form than it is now, but that clearly is part of his MO.
I have him for 9 in this quarter alone.
That is correct, sir. Good double by Erdl. Romack on the attack and tried to maybe fit that ball where it couldn't. He does carry him out of bounds off a Mount Vernon player.
Yeah, I think once he left his feet, he realized he didn't have a lot there, so just kind of threw it off the thigh of a white-shirted Marauder there. You're going to see it right here. Leaves his feet and says, you know what, I got nothing.
Farrell gets it in time to Bishop. This Mount Vernon team will play 3 coming up this week as well. Bishop takes the bump. Couldn't get the bucket, but Sam Bishop will shoot 2. We mentioned the fact that we'll be here for Mount Vernon's game on Friday against Greenfield Central. They will then head to Whiteland to take on the Warriors at the Glen Ray Gymnasium coming up on Saturday night. Free throw is up and good. This Mount Vernon team checking in at 3-0 in conference play so far. Victors over Pendleton Heights, Shelbyville, and Newcastle. Bishop does not get to the line often. Those were free throws 9 and 10 for him on the season. He makes them both. He's at his average of 5 points. Marauders will have the ball to start the fourth quarter, barring another jump ball. Let's see if that impacts their decision as to what they do here.
So they are content to get a last one. Again, I would get moving with about 8 or 9 seconds, so that if you miss, you might get a putback.
Ertl lines it up. Couldn't get it to go. Rebound by Farrell from 60. A little strong. Well, Westfield began the quarter in a 5-point deficit. They now have a lead by a half a dozen going to our final 8 minutes. Mount Vernon and Westfield, a good one here from the home of the Marauders. Shamrocks lead by 6 on 9 Star and the ISC Sports Network.
When moving into a new home, we ask ourselves questions like, who is the best internet provider in town? Well, have you considered locally owned 9 Star Connect? We've become the fastest, most reliable, and dedicated fiber-to-the-home internet company in central Indiana. Our internet packages have been modified, and we are changing speeds at a more competitive price. So give us a look. Visit us at 9starconnect.com. 9 Star is a different kind of company, and the difference is you.
Welcome back to our broadcast booth. We're hiding behind that rail and that monitor. Greg Regstraw, Jim Leisure with you here on 9 Star and the ISC Sports Network. One more time, let's thank our good friends at Quack Daddy Donuts. Again, quackdaddydonuts.com. QDD Westfield on social media. But the most important part, fresh vanilla cake donuts. 7 icings, 17 toppings. Gluten-free donuts are available. Full service local coffee. And again, you want to have a place to host a birthday party or events that can be done in the shop. Get a hold of Andy at qddwestfield@gmail.com. What's going to be the key here in quarter number 4, partner?
Well, if you're Mount Vernon, you got to get more people involved. The only guy who scored a bucket for the Marauders was Julian Smith. He had all the points in that quarter. And this is after a first half of where they got 6 people involved. So they went from 6 to 1, and obviously they find themselves down. And if you're Westfield, you just want to continue to take good shots. Good movement leads to good shots. Good shots have a tendency to go in.
Will Harvey in for the first time this half for Westfield. Draws a defensive assignment on Teschendorf.
Really good defense.
Ertl turns down the shot.
Boy, Farrell's a hustler. I love to look at the kid move.
Just a junior. And really only 2 senior single minutes for the Westfield Shamrocks. Romack is a big part of that. And that time, Harvey just was wrong place, wrong time as Teschendorf landed on him. I think that's going to be a foul on Harvey. Again, he unfortunately undercut Teschendorf kind of by where he was on the floor.
And then lost his balance. There was nothing malicious there. I like the call. I think it was on the officials got together. They finally went, 10 looked like he was the most egregious of that mess.
Well, we could see on our replay, great job by Kurt to show you this, he was still blocking out Teschendorf as Teschendorf was in the air.
Right.
Hence, that's the foul and the proper call. Good jump stop by Smith and finished up and over the extended arm of Farrell. So Smith with 15, Breidenthal with 15, but to Jim's point, Smith has all 11 points for Mount Vernon since halftime. Laravia back in there for Westfield. Is yet to score. I'm just 3.5 points and 2 rebounds a game. Perhaps a turnover. And they always say that the ball does not lie.
Yeah.
After Buchanan potentially took an extra step, ball ricochets off the hands of Farrell out of bounds in the 7th Westfield turnover.
Yeah, the ball has a tendency to do what the ball will do, and that's what it did.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
Teschendorf with it now for Mount Vernon. Bridenthal had some space to operate in the first half. That has not been the case in half number 2. Wells just kind of threw that to the rim, hoping for contact, never got it. Good find by Romack. Nice find by Buchanan. Romack takes the bump, couldn't get the finish, but Alex Romack will shoot 2. And when in doubt, if you're Westfield, just put those guys in a 2-man game. Usually good things are going to happen.
Yeah, Romack came out of the ballgame shooting 68% from the line, so we'll see what he does with these 2 opportunities.
For Monty Wells, that is his 2nd foul of the game. Romack was 1 of 2 earlier in the contest from the line. Hackett will come back in as Wells will have a seat.
Nobody really in foul trouble. Several players with 2.
It's been such a well-played game that there have not been a great amount of fouls called at this point.
Started to talk about it earlier, but I love the way both teams are actually blocking out, getting a body on somebody when a shot goes up. So many high school games have turned into like 3rd grade games where everybody just goes to the rim.
Erdl, that natural advantage being a left-hander. He had an early 3 and has not scored since. References his older brother Michael, Indiana All-Star here at Mount Vernon High School. Played at Louisiana Monroe, then UAB, and now playing in Finland as a first-year pro. Buchanan poked away, but recovers. Romack bobbles, recovers. Harvey splashes home the 3. Entered the game 9 of 22 from 3-point range, and just as Mount Vernon had gotten back within 3, Westfield stretches at 6. That'll be a full timeout taken by the Shamrocks.
Coach Rhodes saying that he caught it and hopped a little bit. We'll see it on the replay. We'll see what happens.
I think that's going to be deemed to be against Romack. Simply just he bobbled it and was able to recover it.
See, again, it goes back to the, didn't have possession. And, every year in every sport, there's rules, emphasis. There's new interpretations of older rules. I know there was a day when that would have been a travel 100% of the time. This whole bobble, the referee does kind of a juggling thing with his hands or her hands. And, that's relative. I've only seen that about the last 5 years or so. It may have been emphasized or changed earlier, but a nice shot of the Mount Vernon student section there.
There is great leniency that is giving on those traveling calls that maybe we did not see in years gone by.
Yep.
Looking at the computer rankings for these 2 teams, Westfield in the Sagan ratings checks in at number 19 in the state. Mount Vernon at number 30, to give you an idea. And again, folks, this Mount Vernon team graduated 8 seniors, and then one of the other great returning athletes elected to not play basketball because it's probably his 3rd best sport, and that would be George Burhan, who had committed to play for Jeff Brom at Louisville, has not signed with Purdue just yet. In fact, I say he committed to Jeff Brom at Louisville, he committed to Jeff Brom at Purdue. Now he is taking a visit to Louisville coming up and may play for the Cardinals and Coach Brom going forward. Also a state finalist level hurdler for the Mount Vernon track team. It's a new cast of characters, but same solid results. Erdl, no great crash by Wells, or Hackett rather, just couldn't keep it in play. And Westfield has the ball in a 6-point lead.
Well, still a lot of basketball to be played, 4 minutes and 40. But I'm always just a big possession guy, and this is a big possession. You'd like to finish with points here if you're Westfield.
Starting 5, by the way, back on the floor for the Shamrocks. Romack dishes Bishop fouled. And Teschendorf tried to take the charge, but Chris Shields said no in it. And 2 free throws coming up for Bishop.
Yeah, this is the definition of the extra pass. Romack has a shot. He could go up right there, but he sees a guy open. And then you see the reach and slap right on the elbow.
By the way, I agree with the no call in that scenario, too.
Oh, yeah,
Didn't think there's enough contact there. Bishop connects. We referenced the fact just 2 seniors for this Westfield side in terms of guys that see regular minutes. There's one more on the roster in Matthew Noss, but doesn't see regular playing time. It's Bishop and Romack. That's it. The rest of this group is back next year for Coach Sumter. 7 for Bishop. He's made all 4 from the stripe.
And he said earlier he doesn't get there a lot, but when he gets there, he hits them.
"13 second-half points compared to 26. That's the Mount Vernon to Westfield ratio. On the drive, pump fake, straight up, couldn't get it. Good job by Middlebrook just to wall off Teschendorf. All of a sudden now a chance to go up by double figures, something neither team has done tonight. Westfield trying to run their record to 2-0 here on 9-Star this year. Unfortunately for Shane's team, this is their last appearance as of now. Buchanan draws 3 defenders. Romack gives it right back to him. And a game of keep away has ensued here for the Shamrocks.
Yeah, more than happy here to take a minute off the clock per possession if they can. They know they'd like for them to end in some type of scoring opportunity.
The good news for Mount Vernon is that they start to give fouls, they would immediately send Westfield to the penalty. 1 plus the bonus. Buchanan carves out some space and fouled. This Westfield team has a pretty high basketball IQ, don't they?
And he really does. And again, just a great job of feeling the opportunity and his body control. And Ertl just goes, he got me. He got me.
So Buchanan to the free throw line for the first time. Again, he's only played in 5 games now, 6. He's 8 of 9 at the stripe this season. Connects, so 25 for Trey. 55-44, largest lead either way this game. Ertl flying down the floor. Doesn't have to be a 3, but it's got to be points this time down. And Middlebrooks gives the foul, and this is where Westfield is at a decided advantage. That is just their 3rd team foul, so they can afford to be a little aggressive here defensively, knowing as long as it's not on shots, it will be a timeout. A full timeout taken by Mount Vernon. They're down to 1 timeout left in the game. Now, we referenced Coach Rhodes and his kind of coaching pedigree in the past. And you said this, Ben is a former assistant to Mark James at Ben Davis. Mark these days is at Perry Meridian. Mark is at the game tonight. He is behind the Mount Vernon bench, one of the all-time leading coaches in the history of Indiana high school basketball in terms of wins, and coached Ben Davis to the state championship back in 2017. A team that's now led by Aaron Henry, who played at Michigan State and, of course, has gone on to play professional basketball. Jalen Wyndham on that team now plays at Ball State, too. And further evidence of the Mark James lineage on Ben Rhodes' staff at Mount Vernon is the fact that John Rocky, who's at the very edge of your screen there on the left-hand side, John was the guy that replaced Mark at Franklin Central, was briefly the basketball coach and baseball coach simultaneously at Franklin Central. Now he's a key part of Ben's staff here at Mount Vernon.
Yeah, and again, I remember Coach James at Franklin Central. That's when I first remember, being aware of who he was. Those who know Coach James knows that he always coaches basketball in his trademark cowboy boots. I believe it's the same pair of cowboy boots that he's had. But I thought this is a fantastic basketball coach. And when he went to Ben Davis, I thought, this guy very well could win a state championship, and he did. And then again, ended up now at Perry Meridian. But just a fantastic coach, always has been.
The guy who replaced Mark at Ben Davis may have a good chance of winning a state championship this year, too. And Ben Davis alum Don Carlisle, they are 12-0 and number 1 in the state. Ertl's 3 left short. Smith will track it down from 16, no. And all of a sudden, Westwood has the ball. 2.5 minutes to play and an 11-point lead. Full court picked up by Mount Vernon. This is where the experience of Buchanan and Romack is so huge for this Westfield team. Buchanan, Middlebrooks, window scores it. Middlebrooks with 7. This is certainly heading in the direction of Westfield's 7th victory in 8 tries so far this year.
Well, certainly not the way Coach Rhodes saw the second half unfolding.
And coming in at 7-3 is Mount Vernon. And this is a good basketball team, but again, they're going to have some mistakes of youth throughout the course of this process. You start 3 freshmen, that's simply going to happen. And learning how to close out games is a big part of that, and that's part of the lesson tonight for the Marauders. Laravia will check back in for Westfield. Middlebrooks will exit.
Sure, Coach Sumter wants to get a little bit more height, a little more protection around the rim. Of course, Mount Vernon's probably going to be looking to hit some threes. Down 13. Threes obviously add up faster than 2s.
Smith. Not sure he's going for the steal or the foul. He'll get neither, and Farrell with 9. All the points but one bucket come from the starters for Westfield. Breidenthal shot blocked by Romack. And then Romack going to be called for the foul and going for the loose ball, but it's just the 4th foul against Westfield. Mount Vernon's other losses coming to Lawrence Central in the season opener. LCLC tomorrow night when they take on Park 2 to Lawrence Central. Just won Noblesville's holiday tournament last week. They also lost to Fishers, led by Jalen Harrelson. And a loss to a pretty good Southport team right before Christmas. Southport, their best team since they made the semi-state round 7 years ago, led by Joey Brunk and Paul Scruggs. Left side 3 for Mount Vernon does not go, and those threes that were falling in the first half now have suddenly come up short in half number 2. Again, Westfield whistled for a foul. This goes against Max McComb. But doesn't put him to the free throw line because that's just the 5th team foul against the Shamrocks.
And you talked about that, Greg, and of course a lot of basketball games go that way. If you're hitting them, life is good.
It's amazing how much we do to analyze things as Erdl rattles that one home. It comes down to, were you making shots tonight?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're getting good shots. They're getting good looks.
Laravia off the window will score it. Comes the 7th different Westfield player to cash in, and it is a 15-point game with a minute left to go. Baseline corner 3 is good. That's Hackett that knocks it down. That's his second made 3 of the game. And Mount Vernon is playing hard defensively but not fouling at this point. And Westfield is enjoying a layup drill at the other end. Laravia with 4.
Nice job.
Brian Osborne has seen enough, the head coach for Carmel, here to scout tonight's game as he is making his way towards the exits, knowing he's got the Shamrocks coming up on Saturday night. They got to play Center Grove first on Friday, does Ozzy's team. They got to win against a sectional 9 team in Anderson on Wednesday last week.
Boy, sectional 9. Whew.
Yeah.
What a meat grinder.
Really good. Pull up by Smith. No, he knew he missed it immediately. Went and got it. Fouled on the floor, which will be 1 plus the bonus for Julian Smith.
Julian hits free throws at about a 66% clip. We'll see how he does.
So as you're watching this replay, to your point, New Pal is 9-0. Muncie Central 6-1. Greenfield 7-1. Anderson 5-3. Mount Vernon 7-3. Richmond is 8-3. Pendleton Heights is 2-8. Now, they played yesterday because the Madison County tournament is this week, and they gave Anderson a battle in the Madison County tournament last week. And even I know that Coach Ballard's got a young team, but I'm not sure there's an easy team to beat of that 7-team group. Shane Sumter now will ask for time.
Yeah, whoever wins it's going to earn it. There's no doubt about it. And the one thing about Pendleton, you talk about youth. If I remember right, there are no seniors
Correct.
on that team. He starts 5 juniors, but 5 pretty talented kids. And the one I like the best is Josiah Gustin. He's just a 6'7" kid, but he's more of a wing player. He's a slasher, shooter. If he gets hot, things could get real interesting in Pendleton.
Section number 8 that Westfield's a part of, they have the best record of the group at 7-1. Noblesville is 7-2. Noblesville lost to LC in the championship of their holiday tournament last week, and Noblesville beat Carmel for the first time in a long time back in mid-December. Sam Orm is carrying the Greyhounds this year. He had 33 in their win against Anderson on Wednesday. Hounds are 7-3. Zionsville are as good of a 6-4 team as you will find in the state. I last saw them against Flory Badunga and Kokomo. They were phenomenal that night. And Fishers has Jalen Harrelson, so good luck trying to slow them down, even though the fact they are 6-6. And John Ashworth's Hamilton Southeastern team struggled a little bit this year at 4-6.
But again, there's no easy one there either. I'm sure that Hamilton Southeastern can beat you too. So,
welcome to 4A basketball in the metropolitan Indianapolis area. Laravia dribbled the ball on the sidelines, or he stepped on the sidelines. 8th Westfield turnover. We want to thank John Painter and our entire 9-Star Films crew for the great job they have done today. And again, Laravia, great job by that baseline camera. You can see that he dribbled it on the sideline. Hackett for 3, got it. And Ben Rhodes will take what we have as his last timeout of the game. A full timeout with 20 seconds left to go. Our post-game show will be brief, so knowing that it's a 9-point game with 20 seconds left, and barring something of the miraculous, this one's in the win column for Westfield. Jim, I wouldn't say your final thoughts on this, but lessons learned about these two teams tonight.
The adjustments that Westfield made at halftime, both defensively and offensively, came to bear here in the second half. Again, I got to think that some of the struggle that Mount Vernon had probably is that youth. Kind of a tale of two halves, a tale of two teams. I mean, you got a team in Westfield with, again, a little bit more leadership in terms of upperclassmen. But I tell you what, it's going to end up being about a 9, 10-point game, whatever. This wasn't a 9 or 10-point game. This was very evenly played.
Good game to shake the cobwebs loose after a holiday break. Romack is fouled. 1 plus the bonus on the 8th team foul. Now again, Mount Vernon, they played on Thursday. They played in Ron Colley's 4-team single-day tournament at the New Woodshed on the south side of town. Mount Vernon beat University and Floyd Central in that event to claim the tournament crown. Romack connects. He's got 9. And for Westfield, this is their first game in 12 days, actually 13. Last played on Wednesday, December the 21st. And got that one to go too. So Romack with 10 points joins Buchanan double figures. Buchanan carrying the freight with 25. Smith let it bounce as far as he could. Ertl got fouled and gets the bucket. So Ertl with 9. And importantly for Mount Vernon, that stops the clock with 13.6 seconds left to go.
Good job there again. Great camera work by a crew, driving right into your living room. Nice job of using the glass. You mentioned earlier that he's left-handed, so no real surprise there that he finishes with the left hand.
Misses that one. Romack had it, lost it, picked up by Buchanan. Buchanan ahead to Farrell. Farrell will take the shot, get it to go. Farrell's got 11, and that will about do it. A final attempt by Ertl. Count it at the horn. It goes. Ern will finish with 11 as well. 67-58 is how this will end tonight in favor of the Shamrocks. Jim, your final thoughts.
Just a really good high school basketball game coming out of the break. Both teams, again, want to get back on the horse here a little bit. I thought both teams got something out of this. Again, a very well-played game. I'm sure both coaching staffs will enjoy going over the film, telling the kids, hey, we did a lot right, made a few mistakes. We got to clean it up.
Always a pleasure to spend time with you, my friend.
You too. Thank you, sir.
For Jim Leisure and our entire 9-Star crew, this is Greg Rakestraw. Westfield beats Mount Vernon 67-58. Rocks now 7-1. Marauders fall to 7-4. Next time on 9-Star, these same Marauders will play host to Greenfield Central again Friday night. Be sure you join us there. Good night from Mount Vernon, and thanks for watching Indiana High School basketball on 9-Star and the ISC Sports Network.